I learned from John, he's a very nice and kind person, and you are very professional in your business. So I'm very happy to have you here tonight, and that you can tell us more about will we have, might we have more customers or better customers? So I'm curious. Tell us your story.
So yeah, well, thank you. It's very kind of you, Clara. Yes, we did sort of share breakfast every morning for 3 months, albeit via a network in Paris. So I'm going to talk you through what it is we do. I will kind of skip through some of it because you don't want to hear me tell you how wonderful my company is and how amazing the people I work with are. I'm sure you know that already, but I'm sure you'd rather hear the war stories of customers than some sales pitch. So I'm going to skip through some of it quite quickly. But do please feel free to ask questions and interrupt, and I'll happily explain. So the title is More Customers or Better Customers. And of course, greedy people say both. And there's nothing wrong with being greedy, right? Because you do want more of the better type of customers. And we have to then define what is. We know what more is. We have to define what better is. Well, better is ones that deliver more profits to the company. They deliver, a greater return on your investment in terms of effort, if you like. Text message. Somebody's just sent a message in, and it's like, okay. So Rob has left. He'll be back later. So better customers, it isn't just profitability. Yes, absolutely. The more profitable they are, the better. But it's also understanding the longevity, the complexity of serving and looking after them. But fundamentally, it's all about how much money you get back. Now, in terms of who we are, in terms of who Mission 23 is, we're a collective group of individuals in many respects. So we are an organization based out of the UK, made up of some very, very experienced and professional people. This is a document that talks about who we are as a business, and we deliver growth strategy, we deliver business development, finance optimization. So this is typically I'd take a bit more time doing a bit of a sales pitch on who we are, but I'm actually more keen this evening to get into a bit about the customer example, which I think will be more relevant to you. Now, this is a real customer, real example, real statistics. I've taken away some of the information to protect the identity and the nature of the business. But all the data is genuine, all the information is genuine. And we started working for this client a little under a year ago, and they came to us. I met the chap, and we had a very good meeting, and he said, look, I need help. I want to grow my business, but I want to grow it in a way that we're not seeing it grow now. Now, I needed to understand what that means. So the first thing we did, we looked at the gross profit of the company. And this is a schema, a chart of their gross profit. And what you'll see is their gross profit is growing year on year. So year 2 is red, year 3 is orange, year 4 is green. We've taken year 1 out because year 1 startup, there's a lot of volatility, there's a lot of sunk cost. You're not really sure where you're going, so you're kind of stumbling around. So it's a bit more volatile. And we tend to write off year 1 as not a point of reference. So we build everything on that. So year 2, year 3, year 4, you can see he's growing. Gross profits is growing very well. Now, gross profit is the profit you make out of selling a product or service. So it's all the cost of selling the product or service, but not necessarily the cost of the business. So gross profits looks good. And in fact, from year 2 to year 4, he's more than doubled. So you would think that's pretty good. If you then look at gross profit and revenues and net profit, you see an interesting difference. Now, this graph is not ideal, so my apologies. But we have year 2, the red, year 3, the orange, and year 4, the green. And what you'll see is revenues are growing, gross profits are growing, kind of almost parallel, which you'd expect. But net profit, so that's gross profit taken out all of his other costs. So the rent of his offices, the salaries, the cost of all his utility bills, and so on and so forth, affiliations and associates, everything. His net profit is growing, but nothing like as much as the gross profit. Now, you don't expect net profit to grow at the same rate, but it should certainly be a lot closer than that. So there's something that they're not doing. They're clearly doing a lot of things well, but there's other things they're not doing. Now, where we are today, this is revenues in blue, gross profits in yellow, but the net profit you'll now see has gone up. The black line is last year to this year, so it's gone up. I think I need to change this graph and make it two-dimensional. But let me put it another way. This is now back to gross profit. The purple line is the line that we've had an influence on. We started at the beginning of year 5, and we've managed to bend the graph up. Now, the first reaction you'll say is, well, hang on a minute, it didn't do much for the first half of the year, and this isn't a full year yet. We haven't finished the year yet. And you're right, at the start of the year, yes, we were doing better, but nothing like as well as we should. And that is because it takes time. It takes time to understand, to analyze, to understand, and to build a strategy that is sustainable. This isn't about, we're going to run an ad campaign, we're going to spend a fortune on advertising, and we're going to pick up the phone and sell to loads of customers. This is about not just doing more of the same. This is actually about doing things better, and arguably losing some customers that you no longer want to serve and replacing them with customers that are better for you. So it's a simple thing of understanding what is the right product in the right marketplace for the right customer. And all that takes time. So what you've seen here is, for the first part of the year, we were doing an awful lot of groundwork and putting stuff in place. And then we start to see the benefits towards the end. Now, just to give you a clue how well it's done, gross profit margin went up from 10% to 13%. And remember, we're not at the end of the year yet. So year on year, gross profit margins are going up. And if you look at that graph before, you will see that previous years, they're pretty flat. So that's all about understanding the right kind of customer. We go back to, do you want more customers or better customers? This is purely a focus on better customers. There are not more customers because he hasn't increased his sales force. He hasn't increased his marketing budget. He hasn't done anything different in terms of finding more customers. He's just focused on better customers now. So that's where we've got to now. We've gone from 10% gross profit margin to 13%. And we're not finished. This is still a working project. So it probably needs explaining what we did, some of the approaches we took, some of the methodology we used. So the first thing we did was, and we've all seen this in various forms, this is the Boston Consulting Group matrix, the BCG matrix. And it's broken down into 4 sectors. Now, BCG apply this to a market. This is how a market performs. So the stars are where you have high share of the market and where it's growing at a good rate. In other words, grab hold of the tail of the thing and let it fly and go with it. And that stars, and absolutely they're a very vital part of the business success. In the top right, you have high growth, but they don't have much penetration. So the point is, if it's high growth and you don't have much penetration, everyone else is in there trying to grow with it. So what do you do? That's why it's a question mark. Do you throw your chips onto the table and go into that? Or do you go and focus somewhere else? Then you've got the cash cows. The cash cows where you do have a decent market penetration, but it's not growing very well. So actually you don't want to spend too much time and effort in there. You just want to make sure you nurture and look after those. And then you've got the dogs, low growth market, low share. Now BCG apply this to a market. The Boston Consulting Group said, this is how you evaluate a market. We then take that methodology and we apply it to the products. and we apply it also to the profitability of those products. In other words, what are the very profitable products where the market is growing and where you have strong penetration? So what is the profitability? So you end up with quite a complex metric of measuring the profitability of every product in every market and the market potential and your current penetration. So using BCG, it gets quite complex. Now we go through that and we identify very quickly, what are the safe bets, what are the long risk bets, and in effect where we want to focus a bit more detail in understanding. We then, for this customer, went and undertook an evaluation using the Ansoff matrix. Now the Ansoff matrix is a slightly different approach. It compares the markets and the products, the new markets and new products, existing markets, existing products. So what we do is we focus on the existing markets and existing products. This is where the company is already selling and has clients. Now, you could, in effect, put in that existing markets, existing products, you could put the Boston matrix completely in there. And that's the point of doing this. This is all about understanding that one corner where you're already successful. Then we look at the new products to existing markets. So what is it we can sell into our existing clients? What is it we can sell into our existing installed base? And we call that cross-selling or upselling. Cross-selling is when you sell something different that complements or goes with an existing product. And upselling is when you sell a more expensive product. So if you're buying a mobile phone, earbuds are a cross-sell, and a nicer phone is an upsell. So understanding what new products go into your existing market and what is there that we're not selling, what is there that we're missing, what is there a new product that we should potentially bring. So that's the first thing. Then we looked at the new markets. Where are you not selling? Why are you not selling? Is it regulated? Is it because you don't have language skills or penetration? What is the reason why you're not selling into certain markets? And to do that, we need to understand some of those markets. And then you've got new markets and new products. That's actually a tough one. And there are companies that have tried and failed abysmally at doing that, but there are companies that have tried and done very, very well. I go back to iPhone. They used to be a phone company. Now they're a data company. They make more money out of data than they do out of selling hardware, although they make a lot of money out of hardware.
May I ask something?
Yes, of course.
Yes, right now in the pandemic and Corona time, which of the four has now the most focus?
So, well, there's no simple answer to that. Otherwise, everyone would do the same. They wouldn't need me. You have to understand what your product is and what your market is. So let's take two extreme examples, okay? If you're selling video conferencing, 6 months ago, it was existing product into new markets around the world. Everyone was buying your stuff. All right. Now, the same industry, it's all about upsell. Everyone's got the base Zoom product or using Teams or using Hangouts. What can you sell them that's a value add, that what's a higher value product? By comparison, some things, say, the automotive industry, 6 months ago, there is absolutely no point trying to sell new products to people when they can't physically come and see you and buy them. But if you are selling new products, the demand has changed. People aren't commuting as much, and there's a whole environmental thing. We've suddenly become finally far more environmentally aware. So what you are doing is, to those clients, that you are engaged to, you're trying to upsell. You're trying to say, no, don't buy, the petrol car, buy the electric car. It's 10,000 euros more, but here's the reason why. So it really changes. And it's a good question, because this is not a static thing. It changes over time. It changes as markets move, as people's buying preferences move. Right now, if you're a UK company, is the European Union a new market? it might be for you, because hitherto we operated it as one market. Now it's actually a different market. So how do you, and in regulated industries, it becomes very complex. So it's an interesting point. You have to understand who your clients are, who your target customers are. You have to understand what products and services you're selling today and tomorrow, and also what's happening within the market itself. So it's not there's not a one size fits all. It varies from time to time, which is why people like me come in and analyze it. And we did spend, myself and another guy, we spent a lot of time going through an awful lot of data. If I tell you we had a spreadsheet that with the data capture we had on the spreadsheet was something like 60 or 70 columns long, and it had every single deal they'd sold over the previous 5 years, every single opportunity they'd been after and not won over the last 5 years. It was huge. And then laid over the top of that, we then had to put their entire costs, office equipment, furniture, office rent, wages, everything, to really understand exactly what was happening within the business. It took a lot of time. So not everyone needs to do that. You know, if you're running a business that is just selling something, you know, if you're a single standalone local coffee shop, you don't need that level of detail, but this customer did. Hopefully that answers your question. Good. So this is some of the approach we did. Now, this doesn't just come out of a tree. We'll just do this bit and do this bit. This all sits under a framework, and this is what we call our growth framework accelerator. I'm really not going to go through and read every piece of this, right? Because we will be here a while. But it's important to understand, we share this with the customer. We discuss what is in each of these boxes and which elements are relevant and how we're going to do it. Because it takes you through a process of defining and understanding what the challenge, what the opportunity is, measuring how well you're doing against that opportunity, and then analyzing what it is you need to do in order to improve. And then the evolve bit is where we hand it back to the business, because we're all about handing back to the business so that they can continue the path of evolution and discovery and growth on their own without relying on us. So to give you an example, in the example I've given, you know, key stakeholder interviews, we interviewed every single employee in the company, and there's not a huge amount, but there was quite a number of them, because we felt it was that important. And they weren't just sent an email questionnaire, they were telephoned. An hour for each person was set aside, it was diaried, and we had a series of questions that related to their role and a series of questions that related to their company. But these were starter questions. As a result of the conversation, other questions came out, so it became a learning exercise, and we really encourage people to be honest. And the best thing that happened was one of the executives sent an email to everyone and said, Johnny's going to ring you. I want you to be as absolutely honest in every respect as you can, because it is purely a conversation between you and him, and it will help us as a business. He will not be feeding back any one-to-one conversations. And that's absolutely brilliant, you know. So we went through that. We looked at how the business performed. We did this very thorough review of the finances. And by finances, I don't mean their P&Ls or their end-of-year accounts. I mean the cost of every opportunity, every pursuit, every deal, every won, every loss, you know, in detail. And then we started to measure how they were performing. And it became really, really interesting. There was one sector where they were, it was a massive part of their business in terms of revenue. It was a sizable part of their business, and it was profitable. But when we started applying the true cost into that, we started to uncover a few things. And once we started to uncover, we investigated further. And what we found is they were selling an awful lot of products and services to a particular client group within a territory. By territory, I mean was three countries. They were selling, and we identified that there was a discounting culture prevalent in that culture. So there was a discounting going on. The clients there often wanted exceptional circumstances in their contracts or amendments to their contracts. So there was a lot of time to serve, and they wanted additional support and so on and so forth. So the cost of winning, the cost in terms of time and effort of winning the contract was greater than any other contract. The cost to serve and support the contract was greater. The exposure in terms of contract exposure was bigger, and they wanted a discount. Now, once we started applying the time, we simply took the time of every person in the company and applied it across the board. And we applied a very small multiplier on that, 1.2, because of the extra time to serve. We suddenly found that this very important part and significant part of the business was actually almost the worst performing in terms of profitability. Massive part of their business it wasn't bad business, it was still profitable. It was good business, but it wasn't the best business. So then we have a decision, and this is where we work with the client. What do we want to do? Revenue is still good for any company that's relatively new and has got small margins. So revenue is important. So do you continue to pursue that, or do you just satisfy and spend a small amount of time looking after the clients there that you have, and go and make more profitable business elsewhere? And how do you balance that, right? You don't want to completely walk away from the market, because it is profitable and it is a sizable part of your revenue. So this is where the complexities come in. And this is where, in terms of your question, Claudia, it's not that simple, right? Understanding what is the right thing to do takes a lot of analysis. So we worked through all this with the client. We defined what it is we wanted to achieve. We put in some measures so we knew what we were doing, and then we started to analyze in detail. Now, this looks quite a complicated framework, and it is, but it doesn't have to take forever. Big clients, this will take a while. The client we're using as an example, we've been working for them now less than a year, but it's been a chunk of time. I go back to my independent coffee shop in the high street, you could do all this in a few days, all of this, but actually you wouldn't necessarily want to do all of this. So it's just a framework that we work with the client to go through. And then when we're improving, we come up with recommendations and ideas of how to improve it. So that's what we use. And we've got other examples of, where we've applied some of this, where we've used some of this, or where we've used a different approach and come up with some different results. And these are just some examples of some projects we've done. We partnered with a company that was launching in the UK, and we helped them with the launch. We did it was a SaaS company, software as a service. They had a brilliant product, very, very, very high-end product, but they were losing all the low-tier business that was still good business. And the guys who were building the projects at the bottom were kind of snapping at the heels, and they wanted to kind of stop that and build a product to go down. So how do you take a very expensive software project, make it so that you can deploy it much more cheaply, sell it much more cheaply, and deliver it much more cheaply, whilst at the same time not annoying the people who just paid top dollar for the real product? So we worked on a project like that, very successful, and was rolled out. We built a partner channel for a company. They previously only ever sold direct. We agreed to develop and build one partner channel for them and show them how to do it. And they are now building multiple others. Again, we're not in here just to stay forever. We're in here to prove what you should do to grow your business, and then we're out of here and we're done. We're all about agile consulting. Another one, we developed a 3-year business plan. They asked us to write their business plan. Another one, we're still managing their post-Brexit strategy. They work in a regulated industry, so we are registering a company for them, setting up an office, and so on and so forth. Jolly good fun. The next one is the most fun. We had a client, they relied purely on temporary staff, and contractors. And they had this fantastic conundrum where the clients wanted people at certain times of the day, and the people who worked wanted to work at different times of the day, and it was, they couldn't agree. So they had a lot of disappointed clients, and they had a lot of contractors who didn't feel they were earning enough hours and getting paid enough, but they didn't want to work other hours. And they'd gone round and round this, and they couldn't solve it. So we went in, we developed their entire HR strategy, we segmented their HR markets, and we solved it for them. And they're now doing very, very well, and they've just gone for more funding, so which was several millions. So yeah, they didn't send me any shares afterwards, which is disappointing. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the reality is, these are just some of the examples of things we worked on. We're working on a startup. I'm working with an engineering company. We worked with a high net worth goods company. We've worked with technology partners. So they're all projects that we've done that have helped deliver successful outcomes for our clients. But if you remember, I said earlier that the example we're using, that we're not even at the year end and we're not done yet. So we identified 22 key actions. Now this isn't all of them, and they're not in detail. So simple things. So here's the graph again. So we've suggested they close their central London office. We did that before COVID-19, not long before, but before. They're still paying the rent, so we haven't even got the gains on that yet. So that graph will go up again when that rent contract expires. We implemented an opportunity tracking and pursuit approvals process. So now there's a management decision on the big deals, so they only go after the big deals that make sense, rather than just getting hungry because it's a big deal. So that's actually now, we're getting rid of the deals that are marginal in terms of profitability, or that are just not profitable enough. In other words, they can afford to be a bit more choosy. We've put together their content marketing strategy, their social media marketing, their thought leadership. We've put together a whole 12-month plan of everything they should be doing over the next 12 months in terms of all of the content that goes out, and how they should do it, and what technology they need to use. We are not writing a single line, a single word. That is absolutely for them. We're not a marketing company, but we're telling them how they should do their marketing. We're all about instructing and helping people. We've identified the events that they should be going to represent themselves, and the awards, and we've built a calendar for the year ahead of that. Now, awards are really interesting. In certain industries, it is really, really good to apply for certain awards. Interestingly enough, you don't have to win it. You just have to be shortlisted. You get as much publicity out of being shortlisted as you do out of winning. So it's really interesting. Go for the awards that you've got a really good chance of being shortlisted for. Don't worry about if you're going to win or not. So we've identified those. We've looked at their website and the content that they need on their website. Again, we're not doing that, but we've told them we've used some tools to tell them what's wrong with that. We've put some management information protocols in, so they've now got management foresight. And then we've put together what we call a product map, which tells them which products they should be selling and to who. A regional profitability map, which regions are most profitable, and a client sector map. In other words, which area, which industries, which sectors should they focus on. So they now know when they get an inquiry, is this a good fit in terms of profitability? Is it the right kind of customer from the right segment, the right geography, wanting the right product? Now, it doesn't have to be all of those, but if it's none of those, it's probably not good business. We've looked at the team, roles, responsibilities, including the entire executive team. We asked the executives to record everything they did over the course of a week, not in detail, not the hours they spent, but just jot down the things they did. A scrap of paper, we're fine. We'll take scraps of paper. Just take a photo of it with your phone and email it to us. And we've identified things that people shouldn't be doing because it's not core to their business. Things that have been duplicated, things that makes more sense for other people to do. So trying to drive efficiency, because efficiency means more time serving your existing customers and finding new customers, and that purely is profit.
That sounds great, John. how does it work? You know, as I understand, it takes a lot of effort from the people of the company. And I, from my experience, there are always some people who are a little bit resistant, you know, about the change and all the work they have to do. How do you get control, or how do you measure, or how do you lead that all? That at the end you get at the first place all the information to analyze, and afterwards you stay until the end, until the process is completely changed. And how do you manage that? It's for me it sounds uh, a no-brainer that people have to do it, and I'm a person who pick it up and I change and I do. And but from my experience, I know there are a lot of people, and they're resisting, or they just do not see the sense of it. How do you do it?
So we don't always succeed, right? We do get people who don't want to play ball, absolutely. But so it's got to be done in a way that makes everyone part of the team. So to just have management say, we're getting some consultants in, as soon as someone hears that, of course, their eyes roll in the back of their head anyway. You know, we're getting some consultants in and they're going to, you know, make us more profitable. And people think, oh yeah, here we go. You know, they're going to change processes, new technology. We're going to have to do things differently. Yeah. So we try and just show a bit of humility. You know, we're not one of the big five consultants, right? But we want to do stuff and we want to make a difference. And if we make a difference, that will make the company perform better. And, you know, and yeah, okay, if you're a shareholder, suddenly that's a good idea. If you're a director, that's a good idea. But if you're just an office admin person working 3 days a week, do you really care? Well, if you don't, you know, that's a problem in itself. You know, that's a staffing problem. But if you remember, I said right at the beginning, you know, we do staff interviews. We do it with a degree of humility. You know, we don't ring up and go, hello, my name is John. I'm from Mission 23 Consultants. Now, I'd like to talk to you. No, that's too stiff. That's too stuck. We try and be conversational. We try and explain to people why we're doing this and share with them our passion for this. And we try and share with them the benefits for them, you know. So when an executive sends an email out going, I want you to be as honest as possible, I don't care what you say because none of it's coming back to me, you know, people, that makes a difference.
Yeah, that's really powerful. That's starting like that is really powerful.
So we ask people to send those messages out, but it works and it makes a difference. Now, you know, I then I share all my contact details with everyone in the company, and I say, if you want to ring up at any time, you know, if I'm busy, I can't answer the phone, but if I'm free, I'll answer the phone. And if you want to email me, that's absolutely fine. If you've got any questions, you know, so it's about being one of the team, not, you know, standing on a perch looking down and advising. But it is difficult. I do recall one incident where a guy resigned, not because of anything I said, but he just didn't like. He didn't want change. He didn't want to see the change, and he knew that change was coming, and it wasn't going to have a huge impact on him, but it was going to change some of the stuff he does. So he resigned, you know, which is a shame. But the reality is, you know, if something needs improving, if something wants to change, if something has to change, then yeah, you know, there are people who get upset about it, but it's our responsibility to manage that as well, which is why we have an open kind of door policy. I had another client where we did the investigation, and then we met the entire team, and we bought beer and pizza. And we had a Thursday evening, 5 o'clock. We ordered boxes and boxes of pizza and loads of beer. And the presentation wasn't done with PowerPoint. You know, I didn't have handouts. We just explained some of the changes we wanted to do. We explained some of the reasoning behind it. And we said, we'll send you a document for you to read. It'll be in your email tonight. We don't want to go into it now. We'd rather talk about how you feel about what's going to happen. You can read the detail later and see how it impacts you. It's not us trying to hide it, but we're here to talk to you, not preach to you. So we had beer, we had pizza, and a lot of people asked questions, and it became a really positive conversation. So yeah, there are things you can do to get people on side. Beer and pizza works. So this is this client. I won't go into details about what we do. This again is from the same brochure. This is about what we do. We're all about operations, improving the operational side of the business, what you do internally. What, can you make things more efficient? Can you drive out some cost? And by driving out cost, I'm not talking about getting rid of people. I'm talking about inefficiencies. Can you also look at the performance of the company? How is it performing in terms of the competition, in terms of the market, in terms of expectations? And what does all of that do to drive profit? So that, again, I'm not going to read that, but that's just some extract from the same piece of paper. If you want to see this again, 9th of December, 10 o'clock in the morning, UK time, I shall be broadcasting to, I don't know how many people, but it will be a case of, none of them will be, well, there may be IMN people, but they're all potential clients that have come to hear what it is we do. And the thing I say to everyone is this all begins with a conversation. I spend part of my day every day talking to people on the phone. And when I talk to a potential client, we talk about the challenges they have. I have one today. He's an interesting chap. He wants to work less on the business. It takes him too much time. He wants the business still to continue, but he wants to cut his hours down by half. He works 3 days a week. He wants to play more golf. How do we do that for him? So it begins with that conversation. Now, sometimes a conversation will lead to us going away, producing our thoughts, and then if we like what that is, then we work on a piece of work together. Sometimes we don't have the right answers, we don't have the right skills, and we'll tell people that. We will tell people that we're not the best people to help them, but we can either suggest they look somewhere or recommend someone, or that they take a different route. There are other occasions when we'll have a conversation and the customer actually doesn't need us. I had a conversation with a guy in Aberdeen last week, about a 30-minute conversation, and we spoke. As I spoke to him, it became apparent there's some fundamental things he needs to do in his business, and I told him some of the things he needed to do, and a lot of it was around content marketing, a lot of it was around social media, and I explained to him what he needed to do, and that is all for free. And I said to him, I don't do this. And you can find someone, you can pay someone to do it, but actually you're better off doing it yourself. And I told him what to do, and we've agreed to talk in 2 months' time, and he's going to tell me how he gets on. And we're not charging for that. That's not what it's about. We're in the business of helping companies grow, and we're passionate about that, and we believe that. And sometimes it leads to paid work, and sometimes it just leads to us just helping people and hearing back from them having done well. And that's it. I mean, that's all I want to talk about. Iris is still here. Very cool. But it's just, that's how you grow a business, right? You focus on the detail. Cool. So and was that helpful? I mean, yeah. Iris, and obviously, Claudia, you know this. It goes without saying, if you want to ask me questions later or send me emails or something comes into your head, absolutely. That's fine by me. Just let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Really worthwhile.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.